what was the last point? Do you remember? We completed nationalism, right? And I must have given you some points. Factors responsible. Can you tell me few factors without looking your notes which helped in emergence of Indian nationalism? Okay. 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 Good. Come on, quickly. No point is coming. Have you noticed that sometimes even one point becomes very costly? You have to develop a habit. And habit is because ultimately when you are going to write this main exam, and main exam is main exam, 85% weightage to main exam, 15% to interview. So you must develop this quality. Recalling, anytime, anywhere. If you're traveling, if you are watching some movie, if you are having some tea, coffee, at that time can you recall what you read in your room or in the classes? And challenge yourself every day that suppose there are 8 points, at least 4 I must recall instantly. If it is happening, exam is in your control. Else there would be a difficulty. So develop and remember this word, that recall anywhere, anytime. Oh, actually I learned this language from Maruti Suzuki. They would advertise their service center anywhere in India, as they claimed, right, from Ladakh to Andaman. So anywhere. So I said anywhere, anytime. So other than 3 points, tell me any other point from this side. Press, good. Just keyword and that is enough. Sorry? Rise of middle class. Okay, middle class was always there. Administrative and legal unification of India. Good. And laws, I'm just reading some online friends and they are also saying the same thing. Anyone? Cultural awakening. I hope you haven't seen in between. Good, don't worry. That's done. That's done. English language. Okay, good. One is the economic, that was I was waiting. You know, not only drain of wealth I just gave one example. Economic exploitation as well as overall exploitation of Indian also became a factor for uniting a section of Indians. Often you are united when you are victim. Common victims would have a common cause. It's like common culprit would have a common cause. There is a saying in Hindi, chor chor mosera bhai. You understand this? So if you look at the greater level, why some countries make some countries as allies and why some other as enemies. You know this? I was reading in medieval and modern history of Europe that I never saw the world thinking in one direction. It's almost like they were thinking in, when everything was going very well, and suddenly Russia attacked Ukraine. And then the world is once again. So I was cursing Russia, अच्छा खासा यार चल रहा था. Then when I went to the history, then I realized that Russia was not wrong. She was also wronged by Americans. You're getting not? By Europeans. And only day before yesterday, 3 days back, French president said that Europe is in danger. And Ukraine is not the only one. Moldova, Romania, Poland, Lithuania, Estonia are the next target of Russia. And we may slip into another conflicting zone. So all those countries would become victims and they may unite, alliances, diplomacy, etc. So within India also, you have to watch carefully from 1880s to 1940s, two types of unity and two types of culprits. You're getting note? One, unity between Indians and Indians, right? One, conflict between Indians and British, but there is also conflict between Indians and Indians. You're getting or not? So when we study freedom struggle, it is not only freedom from British. One Indian was trying to free herself from another Indian. कुछ समझ आ रहा है? Who can explain this sentence? What I said, one freedom struggle, Indian versus British. But another freedom struggle, throughout freedom struggle you have to study, and lot of questions are coming from that part of freedom struggle, that is Indian versus Indian. So tell me, what does it mean? Sorry? Good. So what do you wanted to say? A peasant wanted freedom from zamindars, money lenders. A workers wanted freedom or rights from industrialists, capitalists. Don't forget, both were Indians, both were Indians. Dalit wanted their dignity and their right back from whom? Upper caste. Poors wanted their dignity, their rights from whom? Rich. Women wanted their rights from whom? Not British. मुझे मेरे पति के जुल्म से बचाओ. That she wanted from men. Now, our greater freedom struggle is for them, which is not yet completed. Now you understand this? So throughout modern India, you have to understand two types of freedom struggle. One, Indian versus British, another Indian versus, if you collect like tribals versus non-tribals. Now all these people are in actual number much larger than this number. After all, peasant would be more than zamindar. Only women and men, you can say women are and men are almost same if it is Karnataka and Tamil Nadu. If it is Haryana, male would be more, right? In case of tribals, they are less, 8% of the total population. Non-tribals are more. But here they are in majority. So that means majority Indians, over 95% Indians put together are under one kind or another kind of slavery or serfdom, as in called Europe, and freedom from them is a long due freedom. Throughout freedom struggle, you would find two type of struggle. Lot of questions they are asking, like one question, both Gandhi and Ambedkar wanted to uplift Dalit, but their approaches were different. Now, this question is a struggle not against British. This question is a struggle of them against them. So keep that in your track as we are going to discuss parallelly so many things. So now we are moving towards my next topic, which is formation of INC. Have we discussed this? Different theories? So write it down. One is famously known as safety valve theory. Another is nationalist theory. Okay. Screen is not visible. Can you just check it? Okay. So, what we are going to do, first I will tell about them in 1, 2, 3 points, then I will tell about them in 1, 2, 3 points. Our objective here is to answer both for pre and main exam, but also to make you understand. Once you understand, then you can handle your question because the language of the question would be new. Which language they would use, nobody knows unless the paper is leaked, which is not possible in UPSC because it is UPSC, not UP. Sorry, no, don't take it otherwise. I keep telling something sarcastic comments, hope you would take it in a positive way, and some people have a habit, I do have developed this habit, I don't know how, but all social science people or literature people generally would give some comments along with what they do. That is part of their training, you can say. So sometimes some spontaneous words may come up which is not in my control. It's almost like when a fast bowler delivers the ball, he does not know whether it would go full toss or Yorker or short pitch. It's not in his control. Spinners can control the ball much better than a fast bowler. Since we are teaching in a very fast pace, so something naturally comes. I'm telling in advance because what I know, many people are going to be hurt shortly. So you have to brace yourself, as historians have a habit of attacking anyone. Okay? So now, after knowing both, you have to know one. You have to believe in one. Which one? Which one? Good. Now you have become matured, right? That after knowing both, on what basis you will decide? Fact, truth, and second, logic, which is more logical, which is more applicable to a thinking person. And this choice is very important in IS exam. That out of given 4 opinion, 3 opinion, 2 opinion, which opinion you are picking and why? That is going to decide your career. Even in real administration, every day a bureaucrat has to face a lot of choices. Now, even in your day-to-day life, you have a lot of choices to make. After all, you chose to come to Vajiram. You had a lot of other opportunity. After all, you chose to go a particular course in your graduation. You had other options also. Am I right? The choices makes your life. Some choices would not make too much impact. Like, which food you are going to have today afternoon is not going to make too much impact unless it is not healthy. Am I right? It just be nutritious and healthy and it would not make too much difference. But which optional you are going to take, that choice becomes very crucial. Quite often, we give too much importance to petty things in our life and take too casually important thing in choosing important point. That's one difference between successful and those who are struggling in life. So when it comes to most important part, give some time, think about it, and then choose. Similarly, out of the 4, 5 opinion, why you are taking them and why you are rejecting them, what is your logic, think about it, and then accept or reject. Clear? So now write first sentence. Some English historians, write it down straightforward, some English historians and some Indian leaders argued that INC was founded by English themselves. INC is what? Indian National Congress. When you write first time, write full. Indian National Congress. In bracket, INC. And later on, throughout your answer, write INC. But first time when you are writing, never write in short form. If you read any newspaper, they would always write the first sentence full and then they would write the abbreviations. You understand this? Like SBI. They can never write first SBI. They would first write State Bank of India in bracket SBI. Now this is one interesting training you have to give it because in the main exam you have to write some words again 4 times, 5 times. You cannot write such a long sentences sark. You understand this? So once you have to write sark full, then in bracket sark, and then rest all through your answer sark. That is intelligent people communicating to another intelligent people. Okay? So what I said, Indian National Congress was founded by British themselves. You understood this? Their argument was based on the following points. On the what? Following points. And this is again a strategy, A, B, C, that when you write, you can divide into sub-points. Like we are discussing first point, am I right? And first I divided into A, B, then I will tell 2, then A, B. So this makes your answer visible to the teacher, and she can quickly grasp what you wanted to say. Now suppose you wrote in paras, nothing wrong in that, then again these paras, and then these paras. The teacher has to extract your point. Here it is visible. So make your answer teachers friendly. Question may or may not be student friendly. You understand this? But they expect answer should be teachers friendly. Now write A. The founder was an Englishman, A.O. Hume. You know this? The founder was an Englishman, Alan Octavian Hume. B. Congress did not demand freedom from British. Rather, they were supporters of British rule. Rather, they were supporters of what? British rule. C. A, B, now C. A secret document exists in London archives. Write 1 and footnote somewhere in your note, a place where original documents are kept and preserved in scientific manner. You are going to encounter several technical terms in each subject in the next 8-9 months. Are you getting now? Like in history alone, I am sure more than 500 words which would be new to you, or even you heard somewhere but you know vaguely, not exactly. For instance, archives, you heard it. It is in your laptop, it is in your computer, somewhere in the right or left corner. Am I right? But do you know the importance of archives in history? That is the real point. Modern history anywhere in the world is written on the basis of archives. How much rich your archives, that would decide how much rich your history. Medieval and ancient time, especially ancient history, is written more on archaeology. That how rich your archaeology, that is excavated part, that is the ruins like Harappa, like Mohenjo-daro, these are ruins, right? Artifacts which you collect after excavations. But modern history is written on written material. You get my point or not? And historians' primary source is archival documents. What are archival documents? Archival documents are all official documents which government officials, right from top. In India, the top was Governor General. Then his entire team, secretariat. What they officially communicated to each other is in the files. Those files are kept in a very scientific environment. Even today, all our government officials who are doing your business of governance in every ministry, home, finance, defense, external affairs, they create bunch of files every day. But you can't maintain all physical copy, you know that? So what they do, they burn say almost 90%, 95% after 3-4 years at a particular place. Like in Delhi, if you go Shastri Bhavan and some government offices, just behind there would be some, waste place, and in the presence of a senior officer, it would be burned. They would not give it to Mungphaliwala, so that when you suddenly read accidentally in train, oh my God, India sold Rafale to this country. Are you getting or not? That is why they would burn it. But some documents which is of endurable value, which is of importance, they would keep with the same department which is called curating agency for 5 years. After 5 years, there would be appraisal. You're getting not? Some experts would come from National Archives of India, if it is Government of India's document. If it is a state government, then a state archives of that state. So each state has their own state archives in your capital city. Like you heard museum, you went with your school teachers, but your school teacher never took your archives, that I know, because your school teacher also did not know what is archives. Okay, even I till my history honors, they didn't know what is archives. Only in my first year I came to know, my God, this is so important. Now, in archives, they would transfer the document, say of Home Ministry, Finance Ministry, after how many years I said? 5 years. Then it would be kept in archives for 25 years without public knowing this. So how much total it completed? 30 years. After 30 years, it would be open for research, for public. The first who would rush, obviously not Aaj Tak and Zee News for breaking news, because for them it is dead. 30 years later, that would be historian, political scientist, sociologist. Are you getting not? That was the rule made by the British. But in recent past, that 30-year rule is gone. Once RTI came in 2005, you know that RTI? And you can get an information from the government offices that which decision was taken and why. You understand this? How much money was spent, etc. But even then, many such documents, government would not release it to you under certain clauses. One clause is Section 8B in RTI Act 2005. So, those documents become source for historians. Are you getting not? And then they would write. So, this is official. Then, there is one more document which is called private papers. What is private papers? Say Governor General wrote a diary. Say Governor General or top officials exchange letters to each other. In those days, they would also exchange telegrams to each other. These are all preserved at a place called archives. Now, in those days, the papers which you are using was most important source. So, those papers after few years would brittle. would become yellowish because it is high acidic value of almost 4 to 4.5 or 5. Are you getting not? So they had to preserve it if it is 100 years old. So if you take it, it may break. So they fumigate, laminate, bind. Are you getting? I'm telling you the process. And nowadays they make microfilms, microfiche, and now digitalized so that it is preserved for very long time. So earlier when the buildings like here in Janpath Road, Delhi, National Archives of India, built by British and added by Government of India. That building house, all the original documents from 1748 to 1947 in continuous series without fail, any year. Earlier it was Calcutta, then they shifted to Delhi, and here they have those original documents. All historians like Bipin Chandra, Sumit Sarkar, Ramchandra Guha, they had to go there. I worked there for 1.5 years, and then when I was writing, I had to use that all original document. For instance, you never saw original constitution. You saw Lakshmikant. You saw study material. We saw the original constitution, Article 19, oh my God, all the 6. It is handwritten, you know that? And this size of book. I read hundreds of original letter of Mahatma Gandhi, even touched and smell. Are you getting or not? Oh my God. So we used to joke in our batchmate, कि Gandhi letter first time, you know, some feel to आएगा no? कि साहब उनका खत. You understand this? You know khat, letters, right? All the original letters of governor generals and secretaries, and you know they would write not with this pen, certainly not with this pen which you are using, that wooden pen, and they would, you know, dip in an ink and they would write. So the very writing was very beautiful, and you would struggle a lot to read any writing of British governor general or their secretaries because it was very, you know, cursive and very calligraphic forms of writing. Historians have to read hundreds of such official documents, then letters, then diaries to come to certain conclusion. It's almost like this, that they have to dig 70 wells to get half glass water. Now you understand this, the importance of archives. So all historians have to use archival material. What is archival material? I told you two types, one is official, one is private. Which is more important for historian, tell me, between official and private? No, you have to choose one. Private. You know, if I am using Mr. S. Jayashankar file, okay, and also I am reading his diary, now you tell which is important for you? Diary or his official paper? Have you ever worked in any organization, private, semi-private, government, etc.? No, that reflects. इससे पता चल रहा है अभी कितने कच्चे हो. Private is only important when it corroborates with the official one. Otherwise, what is private? जो मेरे ख्याल में है लिख दिया. Am I right or wrong? Like what you write in diary. What is your emotions? What are your feelings? Can history be written on that, your emotions and feeling? So history has to be written what official document says, what government of the day took decision. So every senior officers, like in government, director, joint secretary, additional secretary, secretary, take decisions, not clerks, not your UDC and your section officer, right? So what they took a decision written on minutes, written on file, that becomes our most authentic source. You read any newspaper carefully, they always tell the source. And the source is very important in IAS exam. If your source is wrong, your answer is wrong. Most people in India do not know. They just read Times of India said it. Are you getting not? Times of India's news article is not valid in court. I hope you know that. In any court of law, Newspaper is not valid. Television is not valid. Now you are basing your argument, what you saw, what you watched, that's the reason why you are getting poor marks. So make sure that your source is very authentic. Historians work very hard to make sure that their source is authentic. And no authentic source than government's official, because no officer would write a wrong fact deliberately. He would be punished for that one if he is writing deliberately, and there is a system, hierarchy, and he cannot write whether he is, FIR, it's a source. Have you seen ever any of you visited Thana and how difficult it is to register FIR in India? They would not register. आप कभी मोबाइल अगर गलती से चोरी हो जाए FIR करा के देखना, वो करेगा ही नहीं. He knows कि FIR अगर होगा so he is accountable right from lowest to the highest officer कि in this area why there was so much theft. वो एक कच्चे कागज पे लिख के दे देगा, 2 दिन के बाद फेंक देगा, उसके बाद there is no record of any such stolen product in that area. So FIR is authentic source. It is applicable in the court, it is applicable in any trial system. So you have to develop this habit that what you are reading in newspaper, watching in news, what is the original source, from where it emanated. ये आया कहाँ से था, पहली बार कहाँ से आया था. हम सब तो ट्रैवल होकर लाइक व्हाट्सएप पे हम पर आ जाता, कहाँ से आता, we don't try even to trace, and half of the news we found fake. Only yesterday or day before yesterday, maybe yesterday, somebody forwarded Rahul Gandhi and Priyanka Gandhi are contesting from Amethi and Raebareli, signed by Venugopal, Congress secretary. And then after 2 hours, it was found fake. And nowadays, they are signing original. You get my point? One group of students in a central university in India, what they did, they didn't like the vice chancellor. So suddenly in the news item was that vice chancellor is suspended and signed by registrar and the sign was original, and later within 1 hour it was found it was fake. So this is the point, that archives is the place. I took some time to explain because it is early class. Our modern history is based on archival material, whether in India or in England or in some European country or American country, because the British took some documents to England. Some document originated from England. For instance, their crown, their governor generals or their secretary of state or their prime minister dispatched, but one copy was still there. So many historians had to go England also, or English historian has to come to India also to write about freedom struggle. So now write B part, what I said. Tell me. Which consists of correspondence between, which consists of what? Correspondence between Lord Dufferin the Viceroy and Governor General. And Alan Octavian Hume, a retired civil servant. Okay, a retired civil servant. Are you getting now? Now we are discussing that how the theory developed. The theory developed is based on 3 points. The first two is not very difficult. A and B. What was founder was an Englishman. You remember this? We all know that. A.O. Hume. What was the second one? Congress did not ask freedom. That is also true. But the third you have to understand carefully. These two names clear? They wrote letters to each other, series of those letters, and those letters are kept in a file, and that file is kept in archives at London. Based on these three evidence, the theory developed that Congress was founded by British themselves to protect their empire or kingdom in India. You understood A, B, C point? Now write first is done. Now write second point. And before that, let me take one interesting question. Mr. Sumant has asked, will there be a chance of false information in government official documents? I told in case of diary, personal letters, you can write based on imagination, you can fake also. Now why it is not possible? I am just giving you an example. If suppose a person is a DM, he is creating a file related to his day-to-day work. Suppose there was a famine in his district, suppose there was a flood in his district, suppose there was an earthquake in his district. So the file would move in which he would write, say 200 people died, right? Say 500 people were displaced, say these villages were affected, say government spent this 200 crore in relief packages. All these would be recorded by a senior officer DM in a file which would automatically become later on gazette, right? These are government documents. What is important, and that is what the point you have to understand, how historians are careful in choosing their source. When he was writing, say in 1920 about a famine or a flood in his district, you are reading in 2024 his document, am I right? At that time of writing, he was not conscious of this fact that someone someday would read my document to write history. He is doing his day-to-day work. It is his duty. Second, if he is not writing this correct fact, you know there is a hierarchy above and bottom and right and left, he would be caught, he would be punished, he would be demoted. You often hear dereliction of the duty, are you getting or not? Such a person. So why an official would write a wrong fact about his own department? I hope you are getting my point or not. Though there is a chance, but historians would not take only DM. He would also read the commissioner file. He would also read the secretary file. They are senior. But historian would not only go on official. In 1920, there must be some newspaper. So what newspaper reported, historian would go that also. Then in 1920, some Indian nationalist, say Mahatma Gandhi, if suppose wrote something about that famine, he would read that also. Have you noticed from how many angles a historian is cross-verifying his fact? And then he would first conclude that what is my fact is a fact or not. Once he is certain that his fact is indeed a fact, then he would choose for interpret. This is what I said, how much care a historian has to take, and there is a group of historians who would check your fact is fact or not, what is called peer groups review. And peer group review in any department, I can give you a classic example. Recently Baba Ramdev was in trouble. Now if you just go through who made them in trouble, किसने उनको कोर्ट के अंदर खींचा. IMA. What is IMA? Indian Medical Association. Who are they? They're doctors. The top doctors of the country. And the top doctors knows much better than me and you whether Baba Ramdev's so-called, what was the name of the vaccine he developed? Coronil would work or not. And they instantly rejected. उसी दिन reject किया था, मुझे याद है. I still remember. I'm sure you all must have remember कि साहब ऑक्सफोर्ड और उधर अमेरिकन परेशान है और अपने हिमाचल में बाबा ने क्या चमत्कार कर दिया. ये तो कुछ लोग बिलीव कर सकते हैं. साइंस वुड नॉट बिलीव इट. Am I right? And they instantly rejected, but उतना तक नहीं हुआ. They ridiculed the medicine, and that is what offended them and brought them into the court. And it was those peer group of doctors which filed the case against Baba. So you can fool some individuals, but you cannot fool a peer group of that same expert. So you have economists in the world who have their own peer group, historians, political scientists, sociologists, and since their bread and butter is the subject, they have been brought up since your graduation, post-graduation, PhD, research, postdoctoral, and now they are 60 plus, 50 plus, 25 साल, 30 साल से यही काम ही कर रहे हैं. So you cannot, write something wrong and get away. Maybe you can write in Rajendra Nagar, Mukherjee Nagar and get away, but not through the peer group, and they would not allow even their journals to publish. Each subject has their own journals. You know that? Have you heard a journal called Science? One of the most reputed journal internationally. One article if you publish, you would be internationally famous instantly. And your quality of research is determined on the basis of this fact that in which journal your paper were published. One of the problems with Indian scientists is that their research is not published by most of the reputed international journals. They publish in the local themselves had created, and that's why the impact of such research is very limited. So this is what I said, that learn and train yourself to understand the source. So I hope I answered that question, that it is very difficult for an officer of senior level. Civil servant is senior level officers. Top government officials may, even prime minister or chief ministers of a democratic country like India, America and others, may say something in election campaign differently, but when they would sit in secretariat, they can never say like this कि तुम्हारे account में 15 lakh transfer हो जाएगा. Prime Minister did not say in Parliament. He did not say in Secretariat. Where he said? Election campaign. This is what many people do not know, that कि election campaign की बात को मैं ऐसे लेता हूँ जैसे शादी से पहले का वादा. तुम्हारे लिए चांद सितारे तोड़ के ले आऊंगा. Are you getting it? और शादी के बाद क्या होता है? सामने से सब्जी लाना मुश्किल हो जाता है. So you see that. So never see politicians comment on election campaign. Just see what they say in secretariat, what they say in the international meeting with the top officials, and that you have to develop a sense. So I hope I answered that question. Now write it down. Point number 2. Some Indian leaders like Lajpat Rai. नाम सुना? Some Indian leaders, point number 2, like Lala Lajpat Rai, also believed in this theory, and he coined the term safety valve. He coined the term safety valve. Who coined the term? Lala Lajpat Rai. But the theory was already there. Let me clarify. The theory he did not create. He just gave a name to a theory which already existed at his time. Is that clear? I gave you 2 important points so far. Now write third point. The theory explains that after the revolt of 1857, the British officials wanted, the theory explained that after the revolt of 1857, the British official wanted to bridge the gaps between people and government, and wanted to create a political representative body which should address the grievances of people, so that government could resolve their issue. You understood this? 3 points under safety valve. Now write 4th point. That would be nationalist point number 1, but here you can write 4th. Indian nationalist and recent historians, however, argued that INC was founded by Indians themselves their arguments were based on the following points. You getting? A, B, right? C. At many times you have to be a lawyer in this exam. When they ask, discuss, do you agree? So have you seen how the two sides of the lawyers argue point wise? So you also develop this habit, as in many cases you have to be in a situation where two extreme arguments are given. You listen carefully and then be ready for countering. So now write A. Can you tell me any those arguments which they gave? Have you noticed? Not so easy to recall. Those who gave safety valve theory, what were their argument, which I gave in A, B, C, without looking? Founded by British, good. Congress did not demand independence or freedom. Third, a secret documents kept in London archives, which consist what? Letters, correspondence, exchange between whom? Lord Dufferin and A.O. Hume. That suggests that they were talking to form a party which you have written in one point, which would work as a bridge between whom? Between people and the government, because there was no such organization earlier and people revolted against the British. So the idea was that if there is some representative body, people's grievances would be addressed and the pressure which is generated from below would be released through that safety valve. That is how Lajpat Rai gave the correct term for that theory, safety valve. Okay. So A, many political organizations many political organizations had already been formed before INC had already been formed before INC in the decades of 1860s, 70s and 80s. In the decades of 1860s, 70s and 80s, such as Trinamool Congress. I hope you're not writing. It's Mamata Banerjee's party. I'm just checking, are you alert or writing anything which I am saying? That also I do in my classes, so be alert. The objective is जो लोग सोए हुए उनको जगा दे, है ना? कल मैंने किसी क्लास में कहा था आम आदमी पार्टी और उन्होंने लिख भी लिया 5-6 स्टूडेंट ने. You're getting now? So now write it down. Such as Bengal East India Association. East India Association. ये सब नाम से लग रहा है उसी जमाने का होगा, राइट? इंडियन एसोसिएशन, बॉम्बे प्रेसिडेंसी एसोसिएशन, मद्रास महाजन सभा, etc. The members of these organizations, write it down, the members of these political organizations regularly met A.O. Hume in India, regularly met whom? A.O. Hume, you have written already, Alan Octavian Hume in India, and Dada Bhai Nauroji in England, who were, both were, rallying point for early nationalists, who were rallying, you understand this? एक नॉर्थ इंडिया में टर्म है अड्डा. So their houses had become what? Adda. For whom? For early nationalists. You're getting now? Point number B. Early nationalists hoped reforms from the British. Early nationalists hoped reforms from British, that is political, administrative and economic reforms. That is political, administrative and economic reforms. The early nationalists hoped reform from the British. You know, we are discussing exactly as what the argument given in favor of safety valve. So I am trying in the same order. What was in A, what was in B, what was in C. So in the B, there you wrote that they did not ask independence, they asked reform. Here we are discussing why they are asking reforms, because one point you wrote that they expected political, administrative and economic reforms. They also expected, in the same point, they also expected and hoped modernization of India as they saw in England. Are you getting? As they saw in England. C. You remember what was in C at that time? एक स्टूडेंट ने लिखा सीक्रेट आर्काइव्स. आर्काइव सीक्रेट नहीं होता है, आर्काइव ओपन होता है. आप जा सकते हो, आज भी जा सकते हो, पास बनाना पड़ता है, अंदर जाकर आप रिसर्च कर सकते हो इफ यू आर इन पीजी एंड पोस्ट पीजी, राइट. उसके अंदर जो डॉक्यूमेंट्स थे वो सीक्रेट थे. यू अंडरस्टूड दिस? सो राइट इट डाउन. द क्लेम्ड सीक्रेट डॉक्यूमेंट, you're getting? Claimed, जो दावा किया गया था, right? The claimed secret document, and you remember in that document what consisted? Correspondence exchange between A.O. Hume and Lord Dufferin has yet to be found. Write it down. The claimed secret document has yet to be found. समझ आ रहा है या नहीं आ रहा है? The entire debate ends here. वो बात जिसका फसाने में, समझ आ रहा? क्या बात, अभी तो शुरू भी नहीं हुआ. ओके? वो बात जिसका फसाने में कोई जिक्र न था. समझ आ रहा? फसाना, स्टोरी, जिक्र, मेंशन. वो बात जिसका फसाने में कोई जिक्र न था, वो बात उनको बहुत नागवार गुजरी है. नागवार मतलब उनको बुरा लगा, लेकिन मैंने तो कुछ कहा ही नहीं. Are you getting or not? So it's like this. The entire theory is based on a so-called document, but the document has yet to be found. So the argument fell flat. But what I would pray, till you appear in main exam, nobody shall find that document. I remember in my second year, हमें एक प्रोफेसर ने बताया एंशियंट के कि हड़प्पन स्क्रिप्ट जो है वो बूस्ट्रोफिडॉन स्टाइल में है. You heard it? बूस्ट्रोफिडॉन. मालूम है किसी को? What is that? I told you we will give you hundreds of technical words. It is written from, right to left, and then left to right, and then right to left. This is called बूस्ट्रोफिडॉन style. हम लोग जो लिख रहे हैं अभी अंग्रेजी, we are writing in Latin. The language originated from Latin, and the script is Latin. Language is English. Writing from left to right. When we write Hindi, that script is Devanagari. Language is Hindi. We write from left to right. Urdu. We write it from right to left. Script is Persian. Language is Urdu. So some Japanese, Koreans, they write from left to right, but top to bottom. You're getting note? आप किसी टॉयज में देखना चाइनीज गुड्स का, वो टॉप टू बॉटम होता है, but they also write from left to right, top to bottom. Have you noticed? So Hadappans were more innovative people, and they wrote from right to left, left to right, etc. So my professor told, nobody has yet deciphered Hadappan script. Are you getting note? And that is why we do not know much about Hadappan society, culture, faith, and we have to rely on their archaeological sources only. Once we decipher, we will know more. Then we were terrified. More means more syllabus, more question. So together in the canteen we prayed, खुदा करे इसे कोई पढ़ ही ना पाए. और देखो हमारी दुआ में असर, आज तक कोई नहीं पढ़ पाया. Are you getting it? You got the logic? This is what दिल के खुश रखने को गालिब ये ख्याल अच्छा है. That it is not because of our prayer, it is because of certain difficulty in Harappan script. So similarly, the document which they were claiming since last 100 odd years has yet to be discovered. अभी वो मिला ही नहीं. So that is why your entire argument that they were conspiring or they were planning to form a party like INC has no solid argument. Had it been discovered, perhaps the story could have been somewhat different. So based on available source, what we can conclude, two interesting points. I am checking your understanding. After all this, you should have understood. Ready? You have to choose between the two options. One is correct, one is incorrect. Ready? INC was formed. INC was formed A, gradually, or B, suddenly. Tell me. Which one you think is correct? Gradually, because a lot of political organizations had already been established. The members were by and large same, and they were meeting, and then they thought if we have an all India political organization, it would be better because our issues are same. You understood this? That is the first point. You gave correct answer. My second question. INC was founded by the British. The second option is by Indians with the help of few English. So which one you think is more correct? B. Have you noticed how quickly you gave correct answer? ये आपका कमाल नहीं था, ये मेरा कमाल था. Please don't mind, just saying jokingly, इसको आप arrogantly मत लेना, right? What I wanted to tell, if you have clarity, you can give an answer on the spot. UPSC wants that before you land up in their prelims exam, main exam, interview exam, you should have clarity of thought. This is central part of your entire preparation. If you have this, your recall value is very high. If you do not have, you would always struggle. And that is our job also, to make sure that every topic which we take, the clarity is 100%. We may not give all the facts, which is not possible. You may not get all the facts even in the class notes, handouts, books, etc. But if you have a clarity, with the help of clarity, you can answer many questions which you getting first time in life. And that is what the beauty of this exam. So focus maximum on developing clarity on every topic. Either you don't read the topic, you are blank, no problem. But once you took it, make sure you should have a very good clarity about this. So now about Congress, you have good clarity that how it was formed, not suddenly but gradually, not purely by the British but with the help of few English. Here itself a question should come in your mind. Why some English like A.O. Hume would help us? After all, they were here to exploit in India. Now this is one point you have to differentiate. One is government and one is an ordinary citizen or an individual or a society. You have to differentiate the two. British government were doing all wrong in India, not necessarily all British people. Even today, American government may be criticized, Vladimir Putin and his army may be criticized, Pakistan government and army may be questioned, Chinese government and army may be criticized. People are not to be blamed because they are not in control of that situation. So when historians write, they are very careful that who is their target. The target is the person who was involved, not other persons in the same government. Even in, have you seen this movie Lagan? Just to make you understand, otherwise movie ko serious mat lena. I also watch, not for history, but only for three purposes: entertainment, entertainment and entertainment. So उसमें एक scene है कि साहब जो Captain Russell था, who wanted to increase Lagan, but his sister was sympathetic to the villagers. Have you noticed this? Though वो आमिर खान पसंद आ गया था इसलिए नहीं, वो इसलिए था क्योंकि it's a human nature that you are a human being. So obviously when you see some kind of atrocities, you may become sympathetic. Even some officials become sympathetic, some officers in army become sympathetic, but maybe because of the nature of his job, he may still do something which he didn't want. But as an individual, when you are not in the government, you may be a trader, you may be a teacher or a doctor. So a lot of English people help Indians, just like Americans are right now protesting more in America against American government than even in Arab countries. Have you noticed this or not? That if you look at in Columbia University, New York University, Washington University, the people are protesting more in Saudi than Saudi Arabia, where they are Arabs, because they don't allow. America is a democratic country, they allow it. So what is the point? History tells that whether in British time, Annie Besant was a British Irish woman, C.F. Andrews was an Englishman, and they all fought for India's cause. So you have to remove some of your stereotype images, because what we generally do, we generalize. That is very dangerous. Second, we have stereotype images, which is lethal in IAS exam. You have to remove many of your habits which is developed by our school and college and culture before you come to IAS exam. So one thing I told, never generalize. Second thing I said, do not have stereotype image of anything in this world. So a lot of English men and women were sympathetic, including A.O. Hume, who had worked as a civil servant. He had seen various atrocities by his own government, maybe by his own action, but after retirement, he wanted to help. Of course, at that time, even Indians were not thinking of independence, but at best they were thinking and talking some concessions, some reforms. And one very interesting thing, those founders of Congress were themselves product of modern English education. They studied in modern schools and colleges. Many of them studied in England. Many of them aspirant for civil services exams. When they went to England, they saw a modernization in all aspects. One, the economic development. One, the governance. You understand governance? That means that the people have access of primary education, of health, of sanitation, of water. This is called governance. Then they saw there are women working in factories, they are getting rights, they are in public affairs. This is another modernization. Then they saw that they had a parliament where the people are questioning the government. This is what modernization. So obviously such Indians were very much impressed कि साहब ये लोग हैं अगर इंडिया में आएंगे, so they would obviously bring that modernization in India. But very soon these Indians got disillusioned, disenchanted. So the same Dadabhai Naoroji, who was impressed by the British, wrote later a book, Poverty and Un-British Rule in India, in 1901. Now why he wrote un-British? Because he expected British to bring modernity in India. But later on he realized that British is doing something which is against their own Britishness. That is why he called un-British. It's like you're a man and you're doing something which is not like a man. So unmanly act. You understand this? Un-British, the very mean, that means the early nationalists quickly became disenchanted, and that would give result to extremism within Congress. So the moderates and extremists did not came from heaven. It was already in Congress. The only difference is that the first 10-15 years you had large number of moderates, means they believed in some reform, some change. But many of them who earlier believed, they got disillusioned and they became extremists. Some remain moderates, and that is very much human, that some may change after 10 years or 5 years, and some may continue with a hope, nahi wo subha kabhi to aayegi, that dawn would come, as Faiz Ahmad Faiz later wrote a poem, right? So I would connect with a lot of fan movies, Ramayana, Mahabharata, cricket, jokes and poetry, of course, so that history becomes interesting, simple for you to understand. Can you write now on this theory versus theory? Two theories you remember. All you need now to do is, when you go back, read my class notes again 2-3 times, then followed by my handouts, then followed by one standard textbook like Bipin Chandra, same topic. So when you read thrice consolidated, you would get certainly new each time, and you may also get some contradiction between the first two and the third, because these are two different minds. So what would happen when you get contradiction? You would definitely try to find out which one is correct, so that in exam hall you are also aware with the contradiction. Though in history, as far as the facts are concerned, very little contradiction. This is at higher level, not at UPSC level. But as far as interpretation is concerned, there would be differences, contradiction, and that is why it is important to read in this fashion. Now come back, my second topic, the next topic, third topic, the moderate phase of INC before your Swadeshi movement. Yes, you were asking something? Moderate phase of INC. The first 20 years, we have to know 3 things in this first 20 years. A, what were their demands, oblique, objectives. B, nature of their struggle, method of their struggle. C, outcome, result, contributions, significance, a critique. Okay. Yes. Sorry. You want to increase or decrease? Okay. Can you just increase the temperature 2 degrees more? Okay. So let me clarify what we are going to discuss in the next few minutes. The time frame is first 20 years, first 15 years. In this period, what Congress demanded from British? Okay, what were their objective? What they wanted? One thing is sure, they didn't want or demand independence, as I told earlier, in the first 10-15 years. Second thing, whatever their demands, how they ask, there are different ways of asking same demand. Third thing, that in that 20 years, whatever they did, what they achieved, did they achieve what their original demands and objectives were, or in the process they achieved something else which is also important, which is also significant, and there were some shortcomings which you can write under a critique. Clear? Now we don't know which one they would ask. They may ask A separately, B separately, C separately, or they can club A with B, B with C, A with C, A, B, C. So when you see the question in the main exam, you have to find out what is the question in the question. Is it B only? So I would focus only B. Is it B and C? I would write both. This is one important discipline you have to give right from test series. Many students, when they write their answer, this is a common complaint of the teachers who go through UPSC. I don't know I told in your class or not. There are two types of answers we write. One is right, one is wrong. What is right? A demand driven answer. What is wrong? A resource driven answer. Resource driven means what I know I write. Demand driven means what I was asked I write. You get my point or not? Just give an example. The question which was asked, Gandhi's relevance in 21st century. This question was asked few years back, 15 marks, 250 words. If you are applying this resource driven, then what you would do the moment you saw, oh, Gandhi must be Dandi. Oh, Gandhi must be Kasturba. Gandhi, South Africa. Gandhi, non-cooperation. Gandhi, civil disobedience. Gandhi, quit India. But none of these were asked. What is the question? See, Gandhi's relevance in 21st century. So students have a general habit that first they would write what they know. And sometimes this is one of the biggest problem. When you know much, that is a problem. You want to tell, sir, मैं ये भी जानता हूँ, आपने पूछा नहीं फिर भी मैं बता रहा हूँ. Are you getting not? Your attitude is like this, and that is what it is very deadly. Because controlling self-control is very difficult exercise. So you don't have to write even what is called your best, your strongest area. And you have to stick to the question. As you know, 21st century means 2001 onwards. Gandhi died in 1948. All these actions took place before 48. So here my first point is demand. In this I will give you 1, 2, 3 formats, A1, A2, A3, right? So start writing. And on what basis we are going to discuss whatever we are going to discuss A, B, C? What is our source? Tell me. What is my source? Your source is me. Am I right? What is my source? My source is my honors and PG and post PG degrees. That of course from Jamia Millia University. But that is not important. Important is Bipan Chandra, Sumit Sarkar, Ramchandra Guha, Tara Chand, S. Gopal. Are you getting? Ranjit Guha. Name is so long that it will take 10 minutes to write only the name of writers, then titles. But these are called secondary sources. I read them. I trusted them. But from where they wrote, they researched it. Are you getting my point or not? So their source is called primary source. You get my point or not? One is secondary source. So books which you are reading, authentic book, Bipan Chandra, this book which I recommended is secondary source. And they themselves write from say original documents of British or Gandhi, that would be called as primary sources. You should be at least conscious about, aware about that the book which we are reading. That is why I said that materials and guides are not even your secondary source. It can be tertiary source. You getting or not? So if I know that this historian had done this research and he is of a credible, like not Baba Ramdev doctor, but MBBS doctor, with all due respect, am I right, to him. So, क्योंकि traditional doctors की अपनी importance है, लेकिन modern allopathic में उनका कोई role नहीं है ना. So they are not even allowed to write prescription of modern medicine, though many of them are doing it, which is actually illegal in most cases. So I would go my original source. My original source is at least is that this doctor has done MBBS, PG, etc. So now I can trust and give my body to his hand. Exactly when you read, you should have a consciousness that this author must have done original research work on Gandhi, on Lord Curzon, on drain of wealth. Are you getting not? And the chain is correct to me. So your chain is the teachers here. But the teachers must be very careful that what is his source. And all the subject teachers must have done this homework. If his source is wrong, all his thesis and answer is definitely going to struggle. And that is one of the problem in IAS coaching. Unlike in university where there is a lot of filtration. You understand this or not? The filtration is this, that you cannot enter unless you have in that subject and that qualification, that interview, etc. But in coaching it is open, anybody can practice, anybody can teach. So you have to be careful about your source, and the source I am mentioning is primary, which is archival material. Congress had maintained a very good record of its annual session. You get my point or not? Like those sessions which held in Bombay, Calcutta, Madras, etc. So who said what? Like if suppose Lajpat Rai gave in a speech, Tilak gave in a speech, Dadabhai Nauroji gave a speech, if they passed a resolution, those all were compiled in a book form called Proceedings of Congress. You go any good library in university, India or England, any good archives, you would get year-wise proceeding, 1885, 1886. Each proceeding is almost 900, 1000 pages. So any historian who want to research, they had to read those proceedings. I am giving you the first 20 years proceeding crux in 8 to 10 points. You get my point or not? Otherwise, it would be 5 years for you to just research on 20 years of Congress proceeding, because each is, as I told, consists of more than 1000 pages. So what were those 8-10 most important demands? I am leaving out the minor demands. Number 1, the early Congress leaders demanded political, administrative, judicial and economic reforms. Judicial and what I said? Economic reforms. They demanded, in the same point, more inclusion of Indians. They demanded more inclusion of Indians in both legislative and executive bodies. Legislative and executive bodies at center and provinces. At center and provinces. You getting this point? In other words, they wanted the post of MLA and MPs and ministers in our language. In those days, the language were different. Let me just take one question. Lala Lajpat Rai was prominent leader, and he must knew that Congress was not founded like this, so why he gave this term safety valve. One more care you have to take. You know about many characters, but you don't know fully. You get my point or not? Like you don't know about Lajpat Rai, that he was in Congress earlier, but later he left Congress, joined Hindu Mahasabha, and became a strong critic of Congress. So he wrote this when he was against Congress. He himself once presided Congress session, I think in 1908 or 9. You're getting now. But later on he became critique. So when he attacked Congress, he had his own argument. One of his argument was that Congress had limited appeal. So early Congress was very moderate Congress, was very limited in nature, and as you know, Lajpat Rai belongs to extremist group along with Tilak, along with others who wanted Congress to take at a different level, but moderate Congress were not ready, and that is why he left. Tilak did not leave Congress. Congress expelled Tilak, and Tilak came back in Congress. When he died, he was in Congress. So you have to understand that every character may have different phases of life. You may get in newspaper, in magazine, and nowadays thanks to social media, a clipping. Patel said this, Nehru said this, Gandhi said this. This is very dangerous. Why it is dangerous? Not because they did not say, they might have said it. But you don't know the context A, and you don't know the totality B. So unless you know the context and unless you know the totality, never conclude. This is one of the problem with educated people. You know, earlier the fight was between educated and non-educated. Game was simple. Non-educated can easily be defeated by educated. But today the fight is between educated and educated. This is more dangerous. Why it is more dangerous? Because absolute wrong and absolute truth does not exist in most of the cases. So most of the time you would find partly truth, partly wrong, and that becomes very dangerous. So you would take your version of truth, she would take her or his version of truth, and the fight, which is very common nowadays in the media. So in academics, they always take care of two things. One, in which context Gandhi, Nehru or Patel or Subhash said it. Number two, in totality. Gandhi said very beautifully to make you understand. When you see two contradictory statements of mine, are you getting? Imagine a man who had 50 years of his life in public cannot be the same in his thought. If he is same, it means he is not evolved. He is called Lakir ka Fakir. Am I right? So what he said, suppose Gandhi in 1910 and what Gandhi said in 1920 may be different, possible or not? You took it 1910 wala because wahi tumhe mila. Remember, resource oriented. So Gandhi said, when you see my two statements, believe the second one. You understood this or not? This is very important, that the second one means the last one would be his original one. The first one, he might have said it at that time when he felt it is right. And it is very true with some of the great leaders in the world, that what they believed earlier and what they themselves later changed. They didn't say I never said it. They said it, I said it, but at that time I believed this. Today I believe this. The problem with the audience, with the media, they picked what is easily available to them and then they generalize over it. Now write it down, point number 2. The early nationalists or the moderates demanded separation of powers. The early nationalists or the moderates demanded, what I said? Separation of powers, that is, judiciary should be separated from executive. Judiciary should be, what I said? Separated from executive. Early nationalists / moderates demanded separation of power. That is, judiciary should be separated from executive. You know, a DM was district magistrate, but he was also district collector. So as a collector of land revenue, he may exploit a peasant. He may thrash him. He may fine him. Sometime he may take his land. The peasant complaint filed in the office of DM against DC. Next week was hearing, headed by DM. DM साहब asked, ये तुम्हारी चोट कैसे लगी इतने बदन पे? सर डीसी साहब ने मारा. कौन था वो? सर हुजूर आप ही थे. Are you getting or not? There was a beautiful couplet of Akbar Allahabadi. बने हैं अहले हवस मुद्दई भी मुंसिफ भी. समझ आ रहा है? नहीं. कितने गरीब हो आप लोग उर्दू में. हाँ, बड़ा मुश्किल होता है एक एक वर्ड को ट्रांसलेट करना, बट आई कैन गिव यू अ सेंस. द पर्सन हु इज कल्प्रिट, ही इज जज. Are you getting my point or not? बने अहले हवस मुद्दई भी मुंसिफ भी. किसे वकील करें, किससे मुंसफी चाहे. मैं किसको अपना वकील बनाऊं, किससे इंसाफ मांगू? बिकॉज द मैन हु इज कल्प्रिट, ही इज द मैन हु इज सिटिंग ऑन द चेयर ऑफ जज और जस्टिस. One of the beauty of Urdu poetry is, you imagine any situation, personal, social, cultural, political, international, or godly, there is a couplet. Perhaps some poets are doing round the clock only this job. कि तुम्हारा कोई भी फील आए किसी भी तरह का, एक शेर है उसके लिए, एक नहीं हजारों हैं. And that is why some poetry can, inspire you also. I will tell some inspiring poetry because some of the poems can be game changer of your life and career both. Okay, like some books can be game changer, like some events of your life can be game changer. Some person with whom you interact can influence you so much that it can be a game changer. So at least I will use some poetry now. Yeah, right. My point number 3 or 2. 3. 2 I gave. I will ask after some time how much you remember, right? Point number 3. They demanded reforms in civil services examination. They demanded reforms in, what I said? Civil services examinations. Wanted exam to be held in India also. Wanted exam to be held in India also, and syllabus to be changed. Syllabus to be changed. CSAT should be reformed. I hope you're not writing, but ये दो डिमांड हमेशा से रहा. In India, first time 1923 they conducted exam in Delhi and Allahabad. Before that, exam was held only in England, and anybody aspiring were allowed after 1833 Charter Act. But first time an Indian who could go and write and clear was Satyendra Nath Tagore, 1861. I hope you know that. He was the eldest brother of Rabindranath Tagore. But it was not easy for an Indian to write and clear this exam for 2 reasons. One, the cost. You have to go on your own, and no TADA would be given by the government. Today government gives TADA only for interview candidates. You know that? Second class train or nearest bus stand to and fro. That is what army as well as defense forces and UPSC and some state government do give it. Now in British time there was another problem, and that was syllabus. What was the problem? I checked their syllabus and question papers of those days also, all kept in archives, right? English literature was compulsory. English history was compulsory. European history was compulsory. There was one paper, Indian history and Indian culture. That's the reason why history was throughout British time, post-independent, one of the most consistent subject, always popular among aspirants, right? And then you have to also write précis, essays, all in English. So obviously the English boys would have advantage over our Desi boys because they would be brought up in Bengali, Urdu, Bangla, Marathi, and suddenly you are reading Shakespeare, Milton, and they could easily walk with Shakespeare, with their Hamlet, as well as those Romeo and Juliet stories. They had watched the play also. India में तो play भी नहीं होता था. So it is not like a good competition. It was like this: when cricket came to India and Indians started playing, the problem with the Indian was they did not have that ground, that pitch, that bat, that ball, that kits, and obviously they did not have coach. So for a very long time it was only played by English, and in India who played the first elite? The Rajas of Patiala, Pataudi, because they could afford this. Middle class, poor class could only watch from distance, and the first common man who played cricket was Bhuvan, Amir Khan. Okay, don't take it seriously. Okay, I read in history that cricket, how it was called gentleman game, an elitist game, and first middle class player at national level played was Lala Amarnath, whose two sons also were Indian cricketer, Mohinder Amarnath and Surender Amarnath, and Lala Amarnath was in 1950s. Are you getting? And cricket came in 1880s. So from 1880s till 1940s, cricket was only for whom? The elites of British, then elite of Indian. It entered to the middle class from 1950s, and from the 70s, the Gavaskars and Kapil Devs, and then 80s, even Aam Aadmi, ab to aap sunte ho, auto wale ka beta, taxi wale ka beta are becoming top national cricketer. So how the democratization of education, of sports, of civil services, like today civil servants are coming from across the class, caste, region in India or not. But if you just check it, the track record till 1970s, mid 70s, it was urban Indian, it was male, and it was upper caste and upper middle class who were writing this exam because they could afford only, others could not. Okay, so now write it down, my third point. Fourth point. They demanded series of economic reforms such as and again I am breaking A, B, C, right? To check drain of wealth. To check drain of wealth, to protect and promote Indian indigenous industries, to reduce land revenue, rent, to reduce land revenue, public rent. Let me differentiate the two. Land revenue is a generic word, a general word, used differently in different places, like Lagan in central India, Malguzari in western India. Are you getting not? Now, when state collects from you, it is called tax. But when zamindars or landlords collect from you, it is called rent. So in some parts, like in southern and western India, the state would collect directly from the farmers. That would be called tax. But in eastern India, Bengal, Bihar, Odisha, west eastern UP, they had zamindari system under permanent settlement. So the peasant would pay to zamindar would pay tax to the government. But since the tax itself was very high, so zamindars would also collect very high rent. So since India is very vast, so no one uniform tax system was prevalent till GST came. Okay, or before GST we had income tax, or we had VAT, or we had various indirect like sales tax, etc. So this taxation system you have to learn in your economy paper, but in history we study history of economy of ancient, medieval and different nature of taxes and the method through which the taxes are collected. Now here I gave you these two terms, so you have to frequently use. I gave you 3 economic reforms they intended or they wanted. One more you write. To implement famine code effectively, to implement famine code effectively / sincerely. Now, after reading this, you should have a question in your mind. Any question coming? Look it. What was famine code, right? I would suggest this time just listen carefully, don't write anywhere, just trust your mind and you can store for very long time, that I know. Ready? Famine, you heard, a situation in which no food, no water is available. Acute shortage, not simple shortage, acute shortage of food leading to death, caused by either nature or by man or by both. समझ आ रहा? What I said? Caused by either nature or by man or by both. Give example. By nature. Flood, earthquake, Katrina, tsunami, Ghazala. These are all names of typhoons. I hope you know that. Okay, good. And what is man-made? War, civil war, and poor government policies. It can be both. That is the first thing you have to know. Always start any topic with this question, what? What it is. Then you go the second, third round. So what is famine I told, and then in British time the frequency of famine and the scale of famine increased manyfold, many times than in ancient and medieval time. That is one of the critique of Indian historians, that why in British time number of people are dying more than say in medieval and ancient time. One is, we may not have too much records of medieval and ancient time. You getting my point or not? That is true. But also because the British economic policy was colonial in nature, so they would not do too much to help the poor, which they could have done because India is big country. Drought if occurs in Rajasthan, the good fertile land you have in Bengal, Bihar, Odisha and in UP. Flood if happens in one part, in other part we have a good harvest, and British had modern road, modern rail, so they could easily transport. You understood this? So these are some of the arguments. So under pressure, the government appointed a famine commission during Lord Lytton's period, okay, that you would learn in my handouts. Those people who were in famine commission, they framed a famine code for the government. In case any famine occurs, the government should do this. List is long. I'm just giving you 5 key points which you have to listen and remember. Don't write. You can remember. Just follow some basic tricks. The government was directed to provide food. Remember the key word in each sentence and then it would help you for a very long time. Government was directed to provide food to the people of affected area. Got it, 1 point? Second, government was directed to provide fodder to the animal of the affected area. Got 2 points? Tell me which two words you remember? Food and fodder. Third, government should not collect tax from the people of affected area if the crop has failed, say 50% or more. Clear? Fourth, government should work to rehabilitate the people, because during famine they would move out from one place, so government would provide relief works, rehabilitation works. Clear? 5, government should collect data, keep records of land, of tax, of animal, of sufferings of the people, so that next administration should be alert and should do all protective measures in advance, so that if any situation comes, the government should come with help. Gave 5 points. Now tell me 5 words which I used in each of the sentences. Food, fodder, no tax, not tax, no tax, rehabilitation, and records, data, records. Now if you know these 5 points, you can write famine code without writing anywhere in your note. Have you noticed how you remember all the 5 points without writing? ये आपका कमाल नहीं था. एक कमाल किस चीज का था मालूम है? नो, मेरा नहीं था. That is very bad. वो कमाल था 2 चीजों का. वही मैं आपको बताना चाह रहा था. एक था, I organize those points. So organize your answers, organize your note, it becomes easier. B, you had 100% attention. You heard it very carefully, so you could remember it. Now you got the clue how to remember so much part of the syllabus with least effort. What you have to do when you are studying at your own or in class, give your 100% attention. After 40 minutes, even if you are watching a rock roll show with your best rock star, your attention would dip. All the psychologists agree that your attention level can never be like this. You get my point or not? Can never be like this also. Your attention level is always like this. It would fluctuate, and after some time, 1 hour, it would be a down and down and down. It's a human nature. You are getting note? So, what you have to do after every 50 minutes or maybe 1 hour, 20 minutes maximum, take a break. Are you getting note? Have a walk. Just drink water, tea, coffee, whatever, and then come back. But come back. Are you getting a note? That is the key part. That how many times you promise yourself, I will come back, and you don't come. Those who come back again and again, they are sure winner in this exam. That is one of the very fundamental thing in the success of any career. Whether you choose sports or medicine or academics or journalism, attention is bound to be diverted. It's human nature. You can't fight against human nature. You have to adjust. And this is one of the best way that you divide your days into sessions and consolidate session wise with minor breaks and major breaks. Some breaks may be 3 hours, some breaks may be 2 days. But coming back again and again is key. So what I said, without writing you remember those 5 points. What I am sure, even if I ask 3 months later, at least out of 5, you can tell me 3. You get my point or not? Now this is what trust your mind. देखा है वो movie 3 Idiot? कभी बताया था उसका example मैंने? उसमें the dean says through those 3 idiots, they have unused mind. उसने ये नहीं कहा था they don't have mind. They have mind because God has given all of us mind. But the point is, who among us can activate and can use those minds? So now write it down, my next point. Now this ABC is over. 1, 2, 3 would continue. So I think it would be 5. Okay, now write 5th point. They demanded press freedom or freedom of speech and thought. They demanded press freedom or freedom of speech and thought. Next, that would be sixth point, right? They demanded reduction in expenditure on army and civil administration. Army and civil administration. Next, they wanted government should spend public money. Next, they wanted government should spend public money oblique taxpayers' money. You understand this? In public welfare programs. In public welfare programs, health, education, infrastructure, etc., etc. So how many points I gave in all? 7. If you add the sub points 2 more, so it would be 9. In one point I said A, B, C, D, बल्कि 10 हो जाएगा because A, B, C, D 4 points है. So if you take 3 from that, 7 this would be all 10. Suppose you wrote 10 points out of 10 all, and the total marks was also 10. How much you think you would get in UPSC? 5, 6. ऑनलाइन वालों कितना मिलेगा तुम्हें अगर तुमने all 10 लिख दिया with correct English, with good expression and legible handwriting? So you would hardly get 2 out of 10. And obviously such a student would fail because you must get 4 to 6 on an average, so that your average comes around 420 to 440 out of 1000. Then you would be in selected list irrespective of your other marks. This is what the general trend in the last 15 years, right? So that means on an average every question you should get 4 to 6. What is point? That how much point you have counted in your answer would not fetch you marks. This even +2 candidate can do. And that is what you have to understand, where the marks are hidden. Have you ever played some video games? Okay. So उसमें एक कार का रेस होता है, देखा? सीधे सीधे जाओगे 20, 20, 40. एक इधर पेड़ के नीचे ले जाओगे 200 पॉइंट्स. एक इधर बड़ा सा डिच होगा उसके अंदर से ले गए तो 1000 पॉइंट. Have you noticed that? So the more difficult area, the higher the points and the reward. Similarly, in answer writing, the teacher is not interested that how many points you have counted. Of course, there should be some minimum point, but how well you have analyzed that point, interpreted that point, and what is your net conclusion of that point. This would fetch marks. In terms of size, this would consume hardly 20% of a space. This may consume 80% of your space, time and energy. But this would give you additional 4 marks. So this 4 plus 2 would now become 6. Now this I can give you with an example, and then I will give you an example of Apple company. This I learned from one of the secretary of telecom, who was my boss for 4 years, and we worked together in university. He comes here for mock interviews. He was IAS of 1978 batch, Tamil Nadu cadre, and he was the man who introduced a spectrum in telecom first time, allotment of a spectrum. You heard 2G scam? So he came after 2G scam, and his senior was arrested and the minister was also arrested. He worked with Kapil Sibal, who was telecommunication minister, and he was secretary government of India. So he told me some very interesting fact about some of the telecommunication thing, and one I will give you an example for IAS. So I connect those things for my exam like civil service exam. So here I am giving you 5 propositions and you have to choose one of the alternate which I will write either side. You recall those 10 points? Kuch yaad hai? First I told in 1, 2, 3, then A, B, C, D. Tell me some of those points quickly. Online, offline? Come on. What were the demands of early Congress? Separation of power, right? Indians should be entered into legislative executive bodies. Civil service reform. ये तो तुम्हें नहीं भूलना चाहिए. Are you getting? पहले तो IAS aspirant को यही वाला याद होना चाहिए. In which they had 2 demands in civil service. Tell me. एक तो syllabus और एक था exam should be held in India also, right? और क्या था other than civil service? Economic reform. I gave you 4 reforms. You remember this? Like to check drain of wealth, to implement famine code. In that famine code, I told 5 points without writing. You remember this? Okay, then. No, forget famine code. Other economic reforms. One was to reduce tax, land revenue, and one was protection of Indian indigenous industries. You remember this? Okay. Now you recall in your mind. Keep that all 7 points in your mind, and then tell me what do you think the early nationalist demand were nationalist in nature or regionalist in nature? Which one you would pick? Was it for all India or only for some part of India? Good. Do you think that early nationalist demand was secular in nature or it was communal in nature? It was not for a community, it was for all Indian. Do you think that early nationalist demand for few classes or for all the classes? For all the classes. Have you noticed this time I have changed the space? ताकि तुम्हें ये न लगे कि इधर वाला सब सही है. Okay? Do you think that the early nationalists wanted reforms from the government or they demanded independence from the government? Do you think that early nationalists had hope from the government or they were pessimists from the government? If you just write this word, this word, this word, this word, this word in either 1 or 2 sentences, you would straight away get 6 out of 10, 5 out of 10. You wrote all those 10 points, you are just owner of 2 marks. And a student who just wrote 5 points, are you getting not? And wrote etc. and he would get 5 marks. You wrote 10 and you got 2 marks. This is a common complaint when the 2 students compare. मैंने तो इतने point लिखे थे यार, मुझे कम marks मिले. Interview में एकदम ऐसा होता है. I answered all questions. उसको लगा बहुत अच्छा interview हुआ and he got 120. And एक student आया यार, I could not answer 50% question and he got 180. I hope you get my point or not. So do not count the points and how many questions you have given correct answer in interview, in the main exam. Even after 5, you can write etc. But you focus on this. Maybe you can add one more. And that one more, if he wrote, is your originality. Is your in Hindi kamai. ये तो उधार का था. ये तो तुमने कहीं और से लिया. So in every answer, there would be a part where your originality is checked. And originality is reflected the way you start and the way you finish. They can find it out that which of the following sentence is coming from your own thought process and which is coming from your memorized part. They have expertise to detect. In interview also, मैं एग्जाम्पल दे के बताऊंगा कि कैसे पहचान लेते हैं कि ये आदमी रटा हुआ है और ये अपने से बोलता है. Sometime when you speak a very polished language, it can backfire. And sometime when you speak tuta-puta language, but idea is original, you can get very good marks. It's like this. I can give you an interesting example. You must have noticed some tutored kids, when it comes to your house, they recite poem very well, fully. Am I right? And you can easily spot on, सिखाया हुआ है. And some kids may not, but tell some very fantastic idea in his own natural style, and you like it. Exactly, UPSC would like your original idea rather than somebody's tutored idea, even if it is kacha pakka in terms of sentences. Okay, so I am giving you in 1 or 2 sentences, but I would make sure all my 5 points are in sentence. So just write it down. Last point, the early nationalists raised secular demands for all Indians, and hoped for reforms. Hoped for reforms. Have you noticed in one sentence I brought all 5 words? Nationalist, secular, all Indians, hope and reform. You can write in second sentence, I tried in one sentence. And this one sentence is very heavy in terms of value. So there is a concept called value addition. In each para, each page, make sure what value addition you are giving to your own answer, or you are just filling the copy. This is one such example. I wanted to give example of a company called Apple, which my former boss told me that Apple company versus rest all over the world. Are you getting not? You know many such Chinese companies are very popular nowadays, and one of the rival so-called is Samsung, right? Now they control 80% market as far as mobile phone is concerned, and they have hardly 20% control. But when it comes to revenue, 80% revenue of the mobile goes to Apple and 20% goes to all 80% put together. And you know the cost of one Apple iPhone, and you can easily make it out the difference. Now you want which model? This model or this model? If you are a smart corporate, you would then work on R&D, because it is their R&D which is making them, as they have their own software, and you know that they are still unbeatable. So this is what in UPSC also, don't copy Oppo and Samsung. If you have to copy the style of, so all those students who are getting top 50 rank, they have followed Apple method. They have not gone to the mad rush of too much material, of too much bombarding with the answer writing. They have gone with the quality of answer writing, with those keywords. They catch it in the class, they catch it in the various videos as well as test series. Many students I notice are very much obsessed with materials. You get my point or not? Never be obsessed with these study materials. Read few books, but make sure it is very quality, and then internalize it and then reproduce. So this topic as far as demand is clear. Now my second part, tell me what would that be? Come on. Whatever they demands, how they demanded from British, nature of their movement. So write it down. Let me just answer one question. One candidate is asking, I think, simile, that should we highlight those keywords in our answer? Yes, you can highlight. That also has a great advantage. Suppose I gave you these 5 points recently. You remember? Secular, nationalist. You highlight this. So your answer would be like this, blank. And you wrote suppose 100 words. You highlight only say 5 keywords. So the teacher could quickly see, because it is not ruled copy, it is blank copy, that these 5 words. So before reading from 1 to end, he can easily see the 5 words. Once he knows that the keywords is here, he knows the answer is here. So what generally teachers do, I can tell you, andar ki baat. Since I did many time in my university and some commission and my friends are still doing, वो क्या करते हैं कि suppose आपका 10 क्वेश्चन उसको मिला, राइट? एक कॉपी में एक टीचर नहीं होता, 3 टीचर नॉर्मली इन जीएस में होता है. इन ऑप्शनल में 1 segment, say section A would be given to 1 teacher, section B would be given to another teacher. Essay is also given to different teachers. Nowadays they have 2 essays, so they would generally give it to 2 teachers. So that means your copy is going to be checked by multiple people. Now imagine, suppose 10 question 1 teacher is checking. So he would read your first question, second question very carefully, but he would not necessarily give marks at that time. He may read all 10 questions, and after reading, so one traditional method of evaluation, he would check the question, give marks as per the merit of your answer. One is that the teacher read all the 10 first and then assess about you, what kind of person you are, 60% wala, 50% wala, 30% wala. Are you getting my point or not? Now in this there is advantage for you. Advantage is that out of 10 questions, your 6 and 7 was very weak. Rest was average, but few was very good. So he would take that very good, and then this would become the benchmark, and he said she or he should get, if not 60, at least 55. So what he would do, that he would give in all 10 questions such way that the total comes 55. Are you getting my point or not? This is very few people knows it. That I know it because some very senior professor told me this is the way you can check the copy, and I did it with many such. The advantage is this: a good student should not be left out. Just because 1 or 2 questions he didn't know, that doesn't mean the student is bad, because after all their job is to select the best. So the candidate is good, but he might not have heard about the topic, so he wrote absurdly, or he might not have prepared properly, but his 10 question is suffice to conclude that the candidate is good. This is one traditional method, a very innovative method of evaluation of your answer copy. So what I am saying is that make sure that if you highlight 3rd and 4th question, he may not read as deeply as he read 1st and 2nd, because the 1st and 2nd is like your intro, and he knows about your strength and weakness. 2 क्वेश्चन काफी है समझने के लिए कि तुम्हारी लैंग्वेज में कितना दम है, एक्सप्रेशन में कितना दम है. अब 3rd एंड क्वेश्चन में सिर्फ कंटेंट ही तो चेंज होगा, तुम्हारी हैंडराइटिंग थोड़ी चेंज होगी. Your style would not change, your expression would not change. Am I right or wrong? So in the 3rd, 4th, 5th, if he says those 5 key points which he wanted, he may not read the entire answer, and he can still give you good marks based on your first 2. This is what I said few minutes back, make your answer teacher friendly. You getting my point? Question may or may not be student friendly, but answer में अगर highlight किया, लेकिन कुछ स्टूडेंट की आदत होती है, जैसे किताब में भी है, हर एक लाइन को अंडरलाइन कर रहा बंदा. देखा ऐसी कुछ किताबें आपने, एवरी लाइन इज underlined. So I often tell some student, ऊपर में लिख दिया होता, all lines are underlined. क्यों इतनी किताब खराब किया? So you should develop a sense that which line is important, which you should highlight it. Now write it down. Next point, the early nationalists, first point, met regularly in the last week of December in different cities. Last week of December in, what I said? Different cities for annual Congress session. You know, the first session was in Bombay, Calcutta, then Madras, then Allahabad. You have to do a homework of some important sections, president, year and resolution. This I have given in my handouts also. Point number 2. December every year, last week, generally last 3 days, they would, next point, they would elect a president, generally through nominations, generally through consensus. Generally through consensus. You understand this? All agreeing on one person is called consensus, and would set agenda and would set agenda of meeting. Point number next. They would discuss the set agenda. They would discuss the set agenda. You know, every time when a meeting is held in government or private or NGOs, when the members are called, they are invited with a letter that these are agendas. उसमें एक लास्ट में एक और लाइन होता है, after those 4, 5 or 7, 8 agendas, or as decided by the chairperson. So that is left open that it may emerge on the day of meeting, because there would be a gap between the letter dispatch and the meeting held. So they may also include on the spot some of the agenda. Even today when government calls any officials, they always invite with the agenda. You understand this? So next point you write, they would discuss, set agenda, which was generally government policies, actions or inaction. ये समझ आ रहा है? Actions or inactions. You know, often governments are blamed for not acting when they were supposed to act. That is called inaction. And sometimes their action when they did something, that itself becomes controversial. Especially related to economic grievances and political issues. Okay, economic grievances that we have already written 4 points, and political issues, you know, separation of power, entry of Indians, civil service reforms, etc. Point number next. Their discussions would be held, in a democratic manner where members were allowed to speak their mind, where members were allowed to speak their mind and even could question leadership, even could question leadership. Are you getting? Point number next. In the end, they would adopt, in the end, they would adopt a resolution through consensus, if required, through voting. If required, through what I said? Voting. Point number next. The adopted resolution would be presented before the concerned authority, would be presented before the concerned authority, and you know, the Secretary of Government of India or Commissioner of the region or any higher official, that is what it means, concerned authority, in the form of prayers. Appeal, and petitions. Prayers, appeal, and petitions. Next point, the language used in their communication, the language, and one more word I wanted. So the language and tone used in their communication, you know, tone, right? Used in their what? Communication was soft, humble, and submissive in nature. Soft, humble, and submissive in nature. For instance, when they would write to any higher official, if he is Governor General, then His Excellency, His Majesty, Her Majesty. Sir, we can understand. We beg to say you, sir. Are you getting note? Then in between, sorry, without any reason. At the end, yours most obedient servant, G.K. Gokhale, Firoz Shah Mehta, Dada Bhai Nauroji. I read many of their letters like this, almost like कि लेटर पढ़ के लग रहा है ये लोग हाथ जोड़े हुए हैं, पैर के नीचे हैं. आप imagine कर सकते हो while reading their letters that what were their physical posture while writing their. It's almost like a 5th standard schoolboy writing to a principal with folded hand कि सर मुझे कल छुट्टी दे दो. Are you getting now? Now imagine Bhagat Singh writing a letter to British. Would he write like this? I beg to say you, sir, sorry, yours most obedient servant. You cannot imagine from Bhagat Singh and Revolutionary. मैंने उनके भी लेटर पढ़े, उनका स्टाइल थोड़ा अलग था. उनका स्टाइल लाइक ये था, शाम के 4 बजे करावल बाग के पीछे एक बॉम्ब ब्लास्ट होने वाला है, बच सको तो बच लो. Are you getting? So their letter was direct threat. Are you getting? Now I am asking a question based on 2 different types of letter, and I hope you would answer. We are calling these people moderates, right? Is it because of the demand or the way they demanded. Have you noticed how easily you answered? ये आपका कमाल नहीं था, ये मेरा कमाल था. Please don't mind. But why we are calling them as a moderate? Not necessarily because of their demands. The same demand the extremists ask differently, revolutionaries ask differently. आज भी ऐसा होता है. Some people ask from the government of India and they come at Jantar Mantar and they demand very peacefully. एक मेमोरेंडम देते हैं, पास में पार्लियामेंट है, सेक्रेटेरिएट है, एक आपका पुलिस स्टेशन भी है, पार्लियामेंट स्ट्रीट पुलिस स्टेशन, where they would go peacefully submit their memorandum. But the Naxals, they don't ask, they blast. Are you getting? That is also their method of asking. So UPSC is asking from you that how you are asking from the government. What should be asked from the government and how it should be asked. So दो बातें आपको माइंड में रखना है. A, you can ask anything from the government as per the Constitution of India except one thing, that is secession from India. You agree with my point or not? इसके अलावा कुछ भी मांगोगे मिल जाएगा. जैसे आपको चाहिए एक अलग स्टेट, मिल जाएगा. हिस्ट्री टेल्स मिल गया लोगों को. जिस वक्त नागालैंड बना था उस वक्त पूरे नागास की पॉपुलेशन 5 लाख थी और एक अलग स्टेट मिल गया. 10 लाख पॉपुलेशन करोल बाग की है. और नागालैंड एक स्टेट है और करोल बाग इज जस्ट वन ऑफ द डिस्ट्रिक्ट ऑफ दिल्ली. You get my point or not? And if you just see the map of Northeast, the size of a state and the population of those states when it was created, I read it was just 5 lakh when it was created in 1963 and it became state. Your Darjeeling, the Darjeeling Hill Council is state within a state, that they have certain autonomy again other than other district of West Bengal. So you can get separate state, you can get state within a state, like some people are asking in Ladakh Union Territory. It can happen anytime. You get my point? You heard about reservation by Marathas, by Jat, by Gujar. वो भी मिल जाएगा, मिल ही रहा है. Anything is possible except one thing. What? Secession from India. Second, whatever your demand, make sure it is not violent. So two things is very clear ever since Constitution of India was implemented. One, secession from India. Two, violent means. If any group which understand this, there would be harmony between their issue and the state. Like half of the Naxals are not accepting either of the idea, and the idea is this, that they should not ask state away from India. They can ask separate state from Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, they got it. Bihar, Jharkhand, they got it. Jharkhand का भी टुकड़ा चाहिए वो भी हो सकता है. यूपी के 4 टुकड़े लोग मांग रहे हो सकता है. At any time 8 PM भाई और बहनों आज से बुंदेलखंड अलग, आज से हरित प्रदेश अलग. ऐसा कांग्रेस वालों ने भी किया. वो आंध्रा एंड तेलंगाना, it was Congress government separated. But what no government can afford in India is secession from India, and no government and authority can afford is violent means. This is what every student, every Indian should understand very carefully. So your answer should also reflect like that. You know, when you are asked opinion, so when you know what is my Lakshman Rekha, यहाँ तक आप मांग सकते हैं, इससे आगे I cannot ask. So asking something for a community, for certain region is not unconstitutional, as long as Constitution permits it. Within the purview of Constitution, you can ask anything, and Constitution does not permit us two things. One, secession from India. Two, violence. Yes, please. No. Constitution is sacrosanct. एक बार बन गया अब नहीं बदलेगा. इसी को तो बेसिक फीचर बोलते हैं. इसी पे तो लड़ाई हो रही है. अगर कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन का बेसिक फीचर बदल गया तो आई एज ए स्टूडेंट ऑफ हिस्ट्री, गॉड फॉरबिड, पहले तो हम इसको बोलने से पहले खुदा ना खास्ता, भगवान ना करे, कुछ बुरी बात बोलनी होती है ना तो एक एंटीवायरस लगा देते हैं. सो दिस इज एंटीवायरस. गॉड फॉरबिड, भगवान न करे, खुदा न खास्ता. फिर हिस्ट्री क्या कहती, जहां जहां ऐसा हुआ पाकिस्तान बन जाएगा, अफगानिस्तान, सीरिया, सूडान, ये सब क्यों स्ट्रगल कर रहे हैं? Because either they did not have constitution or they manipulated constitution fundamentally so many times that Pakistan had thrice, at least 3 times, changed the basic structure of constitution. कोई भी एक कर्नल जनरल आता है और हटा देता है, प्रेसिडेंशियल सिस्टम हटा के प्राइम मिनिस्टर सिस्टम, फेडरल सिस्टम बदल देता है. So obviously such country can never progress. If you see American constitution, fundamentals are still there, which was framed in 1780s. If you see the British fundamentals are same, which was framed in 17th century. French is the same, which is same in 18th century. You're getting not, the fundamentals should not. Yes, the peripheries you can always change. That is why all the experts in India, all the bureaucrats, all the top politicians, all the top leaders are unanimous on this, that we are not going to change fundamentals. बाकी जितने amendments हुए हैं आपने देखा होगा, वो सब peripheries वाले हुए हैं. इसीलिए you should develop, क्योंकि you have to take a stand on various issues. आपको internal security भी पढ़ना, IR भी पढ़ना. You understand this? So if you are very clear, this is my Lakshman Rekha, I cannot cross. So you can take within that some freedom and give suggestions. Okay? Now write it down. My last point in this B. How many points I gave? 7. Now write 8th point. The early nationalists would publish the proceedings of Congress session, would publish the proceedings of Congress session and adopted resolutions in newspapers, magazines and journals. In newspapers, magazines and what I said? Journals. Many leaders were themselves journalists and editors. Many leaders were themselves what I said? Were themselves journalists and editors. Clear? Now C and few points in C. What was in C? Outcome, result, significance. So what they achieved, what they did not. Number 1, the moderate Congress C1 could create an all India political platform. The moderate Congress could create an all India political platform which became a movement later on, where people of diverse ideological background, faith and culture, where people of diverse ideological background, after comma, faith and culture, could join hands together. Could join hands together for a common purpose. You understand this point? For a common cause or a purpose. That is one of the greatest contribution of INC. Point number 2, they could arouse patriotic feelings. They could arouse patriotic feelings among a section of urban Indians with their writings, speeches, and personal interaction. Among a section of Indians with their writings, what else? The speeches and personal interaction. You understand this point? You have to keep in your mind Zama and Makkah. You remember? Which time are we talking about? 1880s, 90s and early 20th century. We were identifying as a Punjabi and a Bengali, as a Madrasi, as a Hindu or a Muslim, as a Brahmin, as a Dalit, hardly as an Indian. So these people had to sell this idea that apart from your various identity, you also accept this idea, which was tough task in those days. Okay, next point. The early nationalist, C, or the next point. The early nationalist, yeah, could pressurize the government. Could, what I said? Pressurize the government to bring some reforms. To bring some reforms as reflected in Indian Council Acts of 1892 and 1909. You have to learn many acts, some in my class, some in handout, some with other colleagues, some with other subject like polity. Now one common thing you would notice in British time, through many such acts, they brought some reforms. Now, why they brought some reforms? There are two arguments, both could be correct. One, a pressure generated by Indians. Two, they gave on their own for their administrative and other purposes. So quite often it came through pressure or the demands raised by the people. History tells those who demands more and more frequently, generally they get more. There is a saying in Urdu, Hindi, Northern India, माँ भी बच्चे को दूध तब पिलाती है जब वो रोता है. कुछ समझ आया? आपने देखा होगा कि some kids who cry more get better toys, more chocolates. Similarly, in a society, a community which is asking more and more can get more. I can give example very quickly. Jinnah cried more, पूरा एक country ले गया. अम्बेडकर ने उससे थोड़ा हल्का से क्राई किया, दलित को रिजर्वेशन मिल गया. You get my point or not? Tribals could not cry for very long time, and whenever they cried very violently. You get my point? ये historian का version मैंने अपने तरीके से बताया कि how it is very interesting. तो एक बात तो clear हो गया कि आपको कुछ नहीं मिलने वाला unless and until you ask. So the moral of the story is keep crying, keep asking, and you would, who knows, even in government जो transfer ज़्यादा मांगता है कि हमें वहाँ चाहिए, एक न एक दिन मिल जाता है. जो चुपचाप बैठा रहेगा उसको सीधा गाजियाबाद भेजेगा. You get it or not? So if you want to, the key posts in most of the government, those who insist, those who persist, generally, in general, they would get more. So many reforms which the British brought, not because they wanted to give, but because the pressure generated by, this is the point you have written. Next point you write. The early nationalists, however, could not penetrate in villages. Could not, what I said? Penetrate in villages. Therefore, their impact was limited. Therefore, their impact was limited to urban Indians. This is one of their shortcomings. And rural Indians could be brought in a larger way with the arrival of a ship from South Africa in 1915. समझ आ रहा है? इशारा नहीं आया समझिए. When Mahatma Gandhi entered into Indian politics. Let me just clarify one doubt. One Mr. Tushar has written, but before I read what he or she read, you tell, early nationalists came mostly from which place? That is a myth. And this is exactly what he was asking, why most people, early nationalists, belong to Bengal. No, most early nationalists, if they came largely from Bombay, also good number from Madras, and then from Bengal. This is a myth because maybe some Chatterjee, Banerjee, Mukherjee comes more frequently in your name. But if you just follow my handouts, you would find largest number of organization names comes from Bombay. Now, Bombay, Calcutta, Madras, I told, were the hub of educated middle class in those days, and that was because it was administrative capital, it was financial capital in those days. They had good schools, universities and high courts, so it created middle educated class. But this is a myth that only in Bengal. It came from three corners. In fact, in actual number, more came from Bombay than from Bengal. So I hope I have covered all A, B and C with clarity. Next time when we meet, we will discuss partition of Bengal and Swadeshi movement. Thank you.